Mr. Ngiam Jiangming, Chairman of MediaCorp, Ms. Tam Lok Keng, the CEO, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to join you tonight to celebrate Channel News Asia's, or CNA's, 20th anniversary. As Jiangming reminded you just now, I was here for the launch of CNA International. What he means is, very politely, I was almost there at the beginning of CNA 2. 20 years ago, when CNA was first launched, Channel News Asia was first launched, it was a completely different world. International news broadcasting was dominated by the BBC and CNN, who typically presented news from a Western perspective. They didn't always cover news in Asia comprehensively, and when they did, they often failed to capture the viewpoints and assessments relevant to our regional context. And this was evident in their coverage of the Asian financial crisis in 1997 and 1998. So in the aftermath of that crisis, we saw an opportunity for the Television Corporation of Singapore, or TCS, to set up its own dedicated news broadcast station that would provide Singaporeans with accurate and real-time news both locally and on the region. As Mr. George Yeo, who was then the minister, put it, such a news channel would reflect a different set of nuances and subtleties in its coverage, which Asian viewers would appreciate. Channel News Asia's launch was a success. Within a year, TCS decided that CNA had the potential to go beyond Singapore and become a news broadcaster for the region. Thus, it formed CNA International to venture into the regional market. This was a bold move. The regional market indeed had potential with a young and increasingly educated viewership. But it was also very diverse, with each country having its own language and culture. And CNA International would have to go head to head, with established local news channels in these countries and be conscious of their unique domestic and political sensitivities. Looking back, CNA has met many of its initial objectives. Today, you are the go-to channel for key news events in Asia. For instance, during the recent Trump-Kim summit in Singapore, and you certainly do not lose out to BBC or CNN when covering regional news. You've become a leading regional broadcaster, reaching more than 80 million households in 29 territories and winning over 220 international awards just in the last decade. Within Singapore, you have enabled TCS, now MediaCorp, to organize and focus their news operations under a reputable and valuable brand. But as we all know, the news media industry has changed fundamentally, and there are severe challenges ahead. The competition has intensified. With Asia's growing role in world affairs, established news broadcasters like the BBC and CNN are opening more bureaus in the region. Regional news networks like Al Jazeera and China's CGTN now compete to establish themselves as the premier Asian news network. And even tech companies like Amazon, Netflix, and Baidu are venturing into information programs. How audiences consume news has also completely changed. 20 years ago, people would read the newspaper in the morning for news from the preceding day and watch the evening news broadcast on TV for an update on the day's events. Today, however, with social media and the internet, we consume news in real time across multiple channels and platforms. On smartphones, on social media feeds like Facebook and Twitter, or on messaging platforms like WhatsApp or WeChat, Weixin, reading it in text form or watching video clips. We rely much less on news bulletins that feed us news in a digest form at a fixed time, instead consuming news on demand, anytime, anywhere. Traditional news broadcasters have no choice but to adapt, and to adapt quickly. Fortunately, CNA has been making changes to its modus operandi over the years. You've already transformed yourself from a single-channel television broadcaster to a multi-platform digital news source, including television and online. And as Mr. Nyam just announced, soon on radio too. You've experimented with video, podcasts, interactive graphics, augmented reality, and even used drones to capture live footage to engage viewers and enhance your storytelling. You've also branched out your offerings to produce original content, including current affairs programs like the New Silk Road and Wild City, which have won international awards. CNA's transformation is not a moment too soon, as the media landscape has become a far more cacophonous space. CNA is today one voice amongst many. It's much harder for you to hold your audience's attention. You have to fight to get your voice through. At the same time, your audience has a harder task to filter out the noise and sieve out facts from the ocean of hearsay, propaganda, and fake news. But it's precisely in this new environment that trusted news sources like CNA are more important than ever. Viewers, readers, and listeners need to know where they can get reliable and factual news. They know that you have researched and verified your stories and organized and presented them as objectively as possible. They look to your brand and track record and trust you to help them make sense of how and why things are happening in order to form a coherent and accurate view of the world and make their own well-informed judgments and decisions. Today, there's no shortage of people or groups who conduct coordinated campaigns to produce fake news to misinform and mislead, whether for financial gain or to sow social discord, or even to radicalize people. Social media platforms propagate such fake news together with factual stories and are either unwilling or unable to take action to block the misinformation. And this has become a serious problem for many countries. Many governments are studying this closely and deciding what measures to take in order to prevent fake news from undermining trust and confidence in institutions and spreading hate and disharmony in society while maintaining a balance with freedom of expression. For example, the US has held hearings to investigate how social media platforms like Facebook were used to influence the 2016 presidential elections. Just last July, the UK Parliament convened an inquiry into fake news. And the French, too, have passed a law to allow their judges to order the immediate removal of fake news from the internet during election campaigns. In Singapore, we convened a select committee on deliberate online falsehoods to better understand and deal with the threat. We are particularly vulnerable. We are open and English-speaking. Our mobile and internet penetration rate is high, and being a multiracial and multi-ethnic society, we have enduring fault lines that can be easily exploited. If we don't protect ourselves, hostile parties will find it a simple matter to turn different groups against one another and cause disorder in our society. This select committee made several practical recommendations for government, companies, individuals, and society to work together to fortify our defenses. And the government has accepted the select committee's proposals, including to pass legislation to tackle this problem. And on Monday, we will be introducing in Parliament the Protection from Online Falsehoods and Manipulation Bill for the first reading. This bill will give government the power to hold online news sources and platforms accountable if they proliferate deliberate online falsehoods. And it includes requiring them to show corrections or display warnings about online falsehoods so that readers or viewers can see all sides and make up their own minds about the matter. In extreme and urgent cases, the legislation will also require online news sources to take down fake news before irreparable damage is done. But legislation alone is not enough. It has to be supplemented by a citizenry effort, alert to the problem of fake news, well informed of what is happening in the world around them, and provided with the means to make sound assessments of what they read and hear. It's no different from our approach to preventing crime. We have strict laws against crime, which are strictly enforced. But each of us still needs to take our own precautions and be the front line of defense, working with the police to keep Singapore crime-free. And that's why our public education initiatives are important. In school, students are taught information literacy and cyber wellness. The National Library Board provides information literacy tips for students, adults, and seniors. The government has a fact-checking website, Factually, where the public can obtain accurate information on government policies or issues of public interest. And earlier this month, the Media Literacy Council launched a new fact-checking resource, Toolkit, at the annual Better Internet Conference. But spotting fake news is easier said than done. And in general, people are overconfident about their ability to do so. We all think that we are well informed enough, smart enough, to know what is real and what is fake, but it is very hard. One recent survey found that 8 in 10 Singaporeans were confident in their ability to identify fake news. But when they were put to the test and shown 10 news headlines, 9 in 10 of them wrongly identified a fake news headline as being true. And this is not surprising because fake news is not always obviously absurd, and even the most intelligent and well-trained of people can fall victim unless they have specific knowledge about the matter. Because the whole intent of fake news is to deceive you and to make you believe something that is plausible, but in fact is false. CNA will therefore continue to play a critical role in our society. You've got to continue to upgrade yourself, invest in your people, your journalists, producers, cameramen, and administrators, so that they have the skills to work together to provide a superior news service and support your transformation. You have to build new capabilities, recruit talented professionals with new skill sets like data analysts who can help you better understand your audience's preferences and interests. And you have to take advantage of Singapore's status as a media and technology hub to maintain links to the media and tech companies here, learn from them, and build partnerships and networks so that you stay always up to date on industry developments. We can be certain that fresh forms of new media, many not yet invented, will regularly emerge and force you to change the way you work. And you must be quick to spot them, to respond to them, and if possible, to use them to reach audiences, old and new. The government, as one of your key partners, will work hand in hand with you. We share an interest in fostering an informed society through quality journalism. We will continue to work with you to promote national and social objectives through our public service broadcast programs. So once again, congratulations, CNA, on your 20th birthday, and I wish you many more successful years ahead. Happy birthday.